So you're at this 4th of July party. Right. In Austin. It's all burgers, flags, and that very specific American pride. My friend Mark's on grill duty. He points his spatula at me. You went to school in England, yeah? Which one? Oxford, I said. Oxford? Man, that's historic. All that ivy and stone. Must be what, 200 years old? I took a sip of my beer. Try closer to 900. What did he do? He froze. A burger patty just flew off the spatula, landed in the grass. He didn't even notice. 900? As in the year? Founded 1096, roughly. Oh no. He just stared. The other burgers started smoking. Hold on. So your student union building is older than my entire country? I nodded. The grill was literally on fire behind him. Wait, he said. So when we were fighting the British for independence, your university was already, what, retired? A senior citizen, yes. Probably complaining about the newfangled printing press being too loud. He looked at his apron, then at the burning meat, then back at me. That's when I realized their whole national timeline fits between my college's founding and the year it finally got a decent coffee machine. So this Oxford thing, it wasn't a fluke, not even close. I've got this conversation on a loop, at bars, in Ubers, at work. It's my personal cultural glitch. You just whip out the year like a party trick. Sometimes, but you have to set the stage. See? In the American mind, old is a relative term. Old is your granddad's Cadillac. Historic is a Civil War battlefield. And Oxford is, not historic, it's geological. It's a layer of civilization. You show them a timeline graphic. 1776 is a tiny enthusiastic blip. And 1096 is a vast, sprawling stain. The university was already teaching law and theology for over 600 years before anyone signed the Declaration. Whoa, that's the perspective shift. Exactly. The pattern is always the same. Step 1, the polite guess. It's old, right? Like George Washington old? Step 2, the correction. Try William the Conqueror. Step 3, the mental math. You see their eyes glaze over as they recalculate everything. And then, step 4, the system reboot. They have to find a new anchor. That's where it gets fun. They grasp for anything in their own timeline to compare it to. Like what? So, it's older than the Constitution? Yes. Older than the Pilgrims? Yes. Older than Shakespeare? Bingo. He died in 1616. The university was over 500 years old when he wrote Hamlet. It wasn't just old. It was already ancient when the English language's greatest writer was born. Oh man, but this gets so much worse when you move beyond the big names. When you get into the tangible, everyday stuff. The things you can touch. Like what? Like the library book you borrowed? The pub you drink in? The bed you slept in? That's when the abstract history becomes a bill, or a beer, or a backache. So let's get into it. The mild cases. The first, polite layer of shock. Right, these are the warm-ups. No one's worldview shatters here. It just cracks a little. Give me the first one. Okay. I'm back in the US at a backyard party. Different friend, same vibe. This dad, Steve, his kid is a junior, stressing about college applications. He's looking at brochures. He asks where I went. University of St. Andrews, I say. In Scotland. St. Andrews, he says. Great golf. Must be a nice modern liberal arts school over there. Good study abroad option. I just smiled. Founded 1413. What did he do? He slowly put down the brochure for University of Midwest State. He looked at it, then at me. 1413. He picked up a flyer for a local historical reenactment weekend. It was for a War of 1812 event. Oh no. He points at the flyer. So this university was taking students before we even fought the British, the second time, to become a proper country. The mental gears were grinding, loud. What did you say? They were debating philosophy before Columbus set sail. He just nodded slowly. The idea that a university could be a permanent feature of the world, not something you found after you'd settled it. That was new. Okay. Next. Story 2. An American colleague, Sarah, she went to a beautiful campus in New England. Stone buildings, 1920s. Very historic. To her, yes. She was moaning about how they were finally renovating her old dorm. The plumbing was ancient. You just don't understand how old our infrastructure is over here. Ha. And you? I took a sip of coffee. My college dorm was a converted 16th century monastery. Whoa. The renovation I lived through was when they finally added indoor plumbing. In 1852, she just blinked. So, your old plumbing was a groundbreaking modern innovation during our Civil War. Essentially. What did she say? She stared into her latte. Okay, that's not old infrastructure. That's archaeology you shower in. There was a quiet respect. Her old was suddenly very, very young. One more mild case. This is a good one. Explaining the tutorial system to an American academic, David. The one-on-one teaching. He loved it. That's so innovative, he said. Personalized learning. The future of education. I let him finish. It's medieval, I said gently. The university predates the Gutenberg printing press by centuries. They invented this system because there were no textbooks. A master would literally read from his one manuscript to a student. His face fell. Oh, he said softly. So it's not innovative. It's a workaround for a lack of technology that became a tradition. Bingo! His whole concept of new and old flipped. What he saw as a cutting-edge model was just a very old solution, preserved in academic amber. These are the gentle introductions. The history is an interesting fact, not a physical reality. But then you bring up the artifacts, the receipts, the literal physical proof that this isn't just a story. It's a ledger. And someone, somewhere, expects you to settle up. Okay, the artifacts, the tangible stuff. Right. This is where the scale becomes personal. It's no longer, a university is old. It's, I owe something to a ledger from the 1600s. Start with the library fine. I was with a group of friends, all Americans, complaining about modern life. Bank fees, parking tickets, admin nonsense. You know the vibe. One says, the worst is when a university holds your degree hostage over some tiny library fine. It's a scam. Everyone nodded. I saw my opening. Oh no. What did you do? I took a casual sip of my drink. Yeah, I had to clear a library fine from 1624 before they'd let me graduate. The table went silent. Complete silence. One friend, Mike, his fork froze halfway to his mouth. You... what? From... when? 1624. It was for an overdue copy of some Latin botanical text. Probably about herbs. Their reaction? Mike put his fork down. Let me get this straight. You had a financial obligation to an institution that was already 150 years old when George Washington was born? That's the one. He leaned back. So you weren't just dealing with a librarian. You were dealing with the ghost of a librarian who might have shushed Shakespeare. Essentially. The absurdity hit them. It wasn't a fine. It was a historical debt. The institution's memory was so long, it remembered your tab from a different epoch. Next. The pub. This is my favorite. An American friend, Chloe, was planning her first UK trip. "I want the authentic experience," she said. "Take me to the historic student pubs." "Great," I said. "Sure, we'll hit the classics. The Eagle and Child in Oxford, where Tolkien and C.S. Lewis drank. Yes, Prohibition-era speakeasy vibes." I shook my head. "That pub's from the 17th century. It's a baby. I'm talking about the Bear in Oxford. Minimum age for entry, 1242. Her face blanked. 1242. It got its first license to serve ale to scholars in 1242. She was doing the math. I could see it. So, that pub was serving drinks before the Black Death? Before the Magna Carta was even a decade old? Yes. Oh, wow. Her whole concept of a historic bar changed. It wasn't about cool decor or a famous former customer. It was about continuity. The same wooden beams had soaked up the same anxieties about exams, money, and love for nearly 800 years. It wasn't a theme. It was the original set. One more, the grade dispute. I was showing an American postgraduate student, Ben, around my old college. He was smart, frustrated. He'd just gotten a bad mark back home and was raging about the archaic, arbitrary grading system. A familiar tune. He said, "I'm appealing it. The whole system is designed to protect tenured professors." I nodded sympathetically. "You know, the process you'd use to appeal your grade here was formally established by a royal charter in 1571. He stopped walking. "What?" 1571, Queen Elizabeth I. It's not a faculty policy. It's a piece of Tudor law that's been grafted onto the university's constitution. His anger just deflated. It was replaced by a kind of awe. What did he say? "So, I'm not fighting Professor Johnson. I'm arguing with the legal framework of a 16th century monarch." "You're arguing with a ghost in a ruff, yes." He laughed, but it was a stunned laugh. The weight of it sank in. He wasn't up against a person or a committee. He was up against the inertia of history itself. The institution wasn't just old. Its rules were set in a time when due process involves star chambers and divine right. This is the shift. The history leaves the textbook and walks into the room. It serves you a drink. It sends you a bill. It fails you on a paper. And that's before you get to the real existential stuff. The moments that don't just confuse the timeline, they reverse it. So this isn't just about Americans being bad at dates. No. It's a fundamental operating system clash. We have to be empathetic here. It's not stupidity. It's a different way of processing time. Explain the American timeline. It's a project. A conscious, forward-moving project with a clear start date, 1776. Everything before that is prologue, colonial history. Everything after is the grand ongoing experiment. Old means closer to the start of the project. So 1776 is year zero. Essentially, their heroes are founders, pioneers, innovators. The narrative is progress. A 200-year-old building isn't just old, it's a sacred relic from the project's founding. It's venerable. And the UK timeline? It's a palimpsest. That's the key word. A what? A parchment that's been scraped clean and written over, again and again. You can still see the faint layers of older text underneath. There is no year zero. There's just layers. Roman, Saxon, Norman, Tudor, Victorian. A 200-year-old building here is that nice Georgian place. It's not sacred, it's just one of the newer layers, so the scale is completely different. Exactly. In the US, ancient might mean the 1880s. In the UK, ancient means pre-Norman. 1066 is the mental cutoff. Anything after that is practically modern. But the universities are pre-Norman. Oxford is. Cambridge is close. That's the crux. They don't fit on the American scale at all. They belong to a different category of time. Institutional time, not national time. Institutional time, yes. American identity is tied to the nation-state, to an idea, a document. British identity, in a weird way, is tied to institutions that predate and outlast the concept of Britain, the monarchy, the church, the ancient universities. The nation formed around these things. Whoa. So when an American hears Oxford 1096, their brain tries to file it under British history. But it won't fit, because Britain didn't exist. England was a messy collection of kingdoms. The university is older than the cohesive national identity it now represents. That's the system error. Precisely. It's a translation failure between two kinds of time. Project time versus layer time. One is an arrow, the other is a sediment. And when arrow time tries to comprehend sediment time, you get the burger falling off the spatula. And the vertigo comes from the realization that their entire national story, the epic they're taught from birth, is just one thin, recent layer in someone else's much older story. It inverts the relationship. Inverts it how? Well, that's where we get to the truly beautiful, mind-bending moments. When you realize the American revolutionaries weren't just rebels. In a way, they were students. And the ancient institutions they were rebelling against? They secretly wanted their approval. The peak moments, where the history doesn't just surprise them. It reorders their universe, right? These aren't laughs of confusion. They're quiet, moments. The first one happened during a late-night chat with my friend David. He's a historian, the good kind, the best kind. We were talking about foundations of Western thought. He was holding forth on the King James Bible, 1611, a cornerstone. Exactly, he said. It shaped the English language, philosophy, law. It's a bedrock. I let the silence hang for a second. Oxford was over 500 years old when that translation was commissioned. His reaction? He stopped, put his glass down. He didn't say anything for a full 10 seconds. Say that again. The university was teaching theology, in Latin, for 5 centuries before the King James scholars even picked up their pens. Oh, wow. He stared into the middle distance. I could see the connections firing. So, the institution that educated the men who shaped the language is centuries older than the book that defined the language? The institution is the petri dish the book grew in, yes. He was quiet. That changes the vector, he finally said. It's not a source. It's the environment. The book is a product of the place, not the other way around. His whole framework for cause and effect in history subtly shifted. The university wasn't in history. It was the weather history happened in. Powerful. The second one, more personal. I was in Philadelphia with an American friend, Anna. We were at Independence Hall. She was rightly in awe. The birthplace of freedom, she said, voice hushed. It's incredible, I agreed. We walked and I saw a statue of Benjamin Franklin. I pointed. You know he was obsessed with getting an honorary doctorate from Oxford, right? She blinked. What? Oh, yeah. He got it in 1762. He craved that European institutional legitimacy. Wore his Oxford gown in portraits. Your great innovator. Your revolutionary. He wanted the approval of the ancient monolith. She looked from Franklin's statue back to me. So, the rebel wanted a gold star from the thing he was rebelling against? Not the crown, necessarily, but from the tradition, the weight of acknowledged intellect. He wanted to prove the upstart colonies could play in the oldest league. Her expression changed. It wasn't defiance anymore. It was complexity. It wasn't just a rebellion. It was a transfer student trying to get his credits recognized by the old school. Yes. That's perfect. It inverts the power dynamic in their heads. The Founding Fathers weren't just creating something new. They were, in a way, applying to join a much older club on their own terms. The revolution looks different when you see its leaders yearning for a stamp of approval from the very old world they were leaving. One more, the big one. This one's short, but it hit hardest. I was with my godfather, a brilliant retired professor from Chicago. We were in Cambridge, walking past King's College Chapel. He'd been quiet all day, just taking it in. Finally, he stopped, looked up at that soaring stone and sighed. "You know," he said, "my entire field of study, my life's work, it's based on theories from the 20th century." "Of course." He shook his head, a sad, wise smile. "I've been teaching in buildings younger than my shoes. He gestured to the chapel, the colleges. "This place has been thinking, formally, continuously, for longer than my subject has had a name." "What did you say?" "Nothing." What could I say? He'd made the leap himself. It wasn't about age. It was about continuity of thought. The humbling realization that his life's work was a single footnote in a manuscript that had been being written here for 800 years. That's the peak. Not mockery, a kind of reverence, a perspective so vast it makes your own life, your own country's life, feel beautifully, terrifyingly brief and new. It's not a put-down. It's the ultimate context. So where does all this leave us? After the laughs and the mind-bending, it leaves us with perspective. That's the gift of this whole weird cultural glitch. Not just, haha, we're older. No, that's the cheap shot. The real takeaway is about two different relationships with time. The American experiment is a brilliant, bold sprint. It's the fastest, most impactful sprint in modern history. But standing in an Oxford quad, you feel the marathon. The marathon. The slow, continuous, sometimes stumbling but unbroken walk of an idea. The idea that we should keep thinking, keep arguing, keep learning in one dedicated place, century after century. Through plagues and wars and revolutions, the university isn't a building. It's a conversation that's never stopped. And 1776 is a voice in that conversation. A powerful, revolutionary, world-changing voice. But a recent one. That's the empathetic flip. It's not that American history is small. It's that it's incredibly potent and concentrated. The shock comes from seeing that potent concentrate poured into the vast, deep vessel of another timeline. The soft morale. We're all living in young countries, built on old ground. Every nation's ancient history is someone else's current affairs. This confusion, this temporal vertigo, it's a reminder to look up from our own timeline, to feel the weight and the gift of all the layers that came before our chapter. So it's not a competition. It never was. It's an invitation. The next time an American is stunned that a pub is older than their constitution, don't just say yes. Say, "Let me buy you a pint in it. Let's sit where students sat before anyone knew your continent was there. And let's talk about what we're building now that might, if we're lucky, last half as long." That's the bridge. From shock to shared wonder. From, "My country is younger than your school," to "What is my country going to do with its next 900 years? So when Americans realize UK universities are older than their country, you get the burger flip, the library fine from the 1600s, and Ben Franklin secretly wanting his Oxford diploma. Exactly. It's a timeline tangle that ends in a new perspective. What do you want people to do with this? Comment below. What's the oldest thing you've ever touched? Has an American ever been shocked by your country's deep history? And subscribe for more stories where cultures collide and history gets personal.